Do your money worries rob you of sleep sometimes? Or do you find that they sometimes spike your anxiety? What if there's a way that you could put in place immediately or in a short space of time that would actually address that? My name is Caitriona Ellis, founder of the Financial Wellness Academy, where we educate and empower you to master your money, regardless of your current circumstances. So, what's that one thing? That one thing is a rainy day fund or an emergency fund. Call it whatever name that really resonates with you. And this is something that has saved my bacon more than once. So, some of the key things we're going to cover today in a very short vlog is why would you bother doing this? How much should you have in this? And if you're struggling to make ends meet, how this is even a viable option for you. So, first of all, why would you bother doing this? For most women, one of the big pieces they have in their vision for financial wellness is safety and security. And having a rainy day fund or an emergency fund gives you an enormous sense of that safety and security. So that you know, should the worst happen, your income dries up, it disappears overnight, you've got this pot that will buy you some time whilst you let everything settle and figure out a plan B. It saves a huge amount of stress. As I've said earlier, had to call on this a number of occasions. The most recent was during COVID, when overnight the only income to our house disappeared, went from a decent sizable income to zero. That was very frightening. And whilst I gathered my own breath and came up with a plan, it was our emergency fund that kicked in. It was our emergency fund that made it possible for us to continue to pay our mortgage, to continue to feed our children, to continue to pay our bills. And it allowed us to draw our breath whilst the shock of what had happened really percolated and got us to a place where we could take a breath and figure out what might the next steps be. So that really, I guess, succinctly covers why you would bother doing this. It's such a source of safety and security for you. Now, how big does it need to be? In my opinion, this is very personal. So, my personal emergency fund, rainy day fund, has 3 months of my living expenses in it. 3 months for me is a good time period for me to get my head around what a plan is going to be for next steps. When I was married, um, it's important to take into account both people's sides. So if your partner has a 12 months, they want to have 12 months provision, then go with the larger amount because you want to make sure that both of you feel that level of safety and security with having that fund. So that's the situation. So it's really, first of all, I guess, about you figuring out what that number is for you. If it's just you, then you decide what that number is. If you're in a marriage relationship, whatever, that involves a conversation with your partner as to what that number would be for you. So how many months would you like to put aside? So if you're somebody then who is would love to maybe have 6 months in place, but right now you are barely making ends meet, and what is going coming in is also going out and maybe a little bit more. This is where you start. We're just planting the seed. We're giving you the idea that that is something that you know that you would really like to have in place. And over a period of time, however long that's going to take you, you're going to work to that. So first of all, name that figure. So let's say your living expenses are 2,000 a month. You want to have in place 3 months. So your goal is to have 6,000 in an instant access account that you can tap into should any emergency or rainy day arise. When you're working from a place of netting out and there's nothing to spare, the first step really is to set the goal. The second step then is to start to pay attention to what's coming in and what's going out. And the more attention you pay to the dynamic of what's going on there, your awareness starts to really shift. So when I did this exercise the very first time about 9 years ago, there was no spare. So it was there as a goal for me to work towards. And over time, as I started to pay a lot more attention to what was coming in and going out, and really reduce the expenses and start to increase the income, that spare started to be found. And then I started to funnel it into that account so it was there, should I need it. So that's where you go from there. So I hope that makes sense. It's just a really simple idea. I've seen it time and time again personally and with women function so amazingly. It is just so magical when you have that in place. What happens in your body, in your mind, in terms of how you think about your money, because you know you've got that cushion there. And should something happen that's unexpected, you've got that little pot to tap into. And each time you tap into it, your objective is to top it back up after when time allows. So if you're really struggling with your money stuff, I've just given birth to an amazing new program that I really want to pilot. I'm going to pilot it starting in November. So if you feel like you could do with a little bit more support in your money stuff, then let me know. Reach out to me. I'll put contact details in the description, and we can set up a chat to figure out if this is a good match for you. In a nutshell, it's going to involve a 90-minute workshop where we're going to work through your checklist as to what you've got in place, what you don't have in place, and we're going to create a very simple plan for you for a 3-month period as to what we're going to do to start to nudge you towards that level of financial wellness that you desire. So along with the workshop, I'm going to give you 3 months support. So we'll have a touch base call once a month. So we'll do the workshop in November. We'll have questions and answers and accountability call in December, January, and February. So that will allow you to make sure that whatever plan that we agree in the workshop on in November, that you've got some follow-up coming in coming months and through that period of the C word, which can be very challenging from a money perspective. So if you feel that that might be a fit for you, I'm doing it at the moment as a pilot price of £250. Book yourself in a clarity call to have a chat. If you know it's an instant yes for you, then just contact me on the email address below and we can get you booked in. I'm going to keep it to a relatively small group because I want to make sure that I've got time to give to everybody who is there. And yeah, any questions, let me know. So here's to your financial wellness. And for those of you who don't have an emergency fund in place yet or rainy day fund, let's get moving with that. Thanks for listening. See you soon.